All right, everyone. Kamala Harris doesn't want you to remember how she got into political power, but even more so, she doesn't want you to remember that she was a crooked former prosecutor. She was a tough on crime liberal. So what Kamala Harris used to do as a prosecutor is she would try to really go in hard against people for truancy, simple drug possession, even minor offenses, and try to get them to go away as long as possible to scare them straight. This was a strategy that was sort of born out of the Clinton era with the super predator mentality of Hillary Clinton. This was fomented by the Al Gores and by the Hillary Clintons of the world, not by the Republicans. The Republicans supposedly hate like the poor and they hate black people and they really just want to punish everyone as much as possible because they're slaves to the prison complex. Trump, ironically, and I know he was a Democrat, but he was a business Democrat, not a tough on crime lib. Donald Trump has passed comprehensive prison reform and done a whole bunch of shit, along with a bunch of Republicans, like the Rand Pauls of the party. The Democrats, meanwhile, a lot of them are having trouble explaining their past. Here's the thing. In past elections, like prior to 2008, basically, the absence of modern social media and the 24-hour news cycle and independent analysis like I'm doing now, like YouTube in 2008, there weren't a whole lot of people doing this sort of thing. Now there are a dime a dozen. No offense meant to anyone, including myself, but there are more people doing political commentary, doing citizen journalism and stuff. The problem is, back then, if you had a checkered past, it might get brought up by CNN, you might face it during a Fox interview or something. Fewer people knew about it, you could explain yourself in a scripted manner, and unless you were getting hardballed in the interview or something by someone who, let's face it, works for a parent company that might have donated to your campaign, they're not trying to fuck you over too much. It was easier to control the flow of information to the public. You can't do that anymore. Everything is public knowledge. Everything is aggregated under the all-encompassing cloud that has become the modern internet. The internet has already absorbed TV. It's absorbed radio. It has become the only communication structure in the world. They're all the same thing now. You're using the internet and the phone are the same fucking shit. Your phone is just a computer at this point. It used to be for calling people on the phone. Now it's for Facebook and stuff like that. Your Instagram, your WhatsApp and shit like that. It's amazing how the world is morphing. The internet technology is taking off. Kamala Harris, therefore, has a problem. We can show, yes, she was a tough on crime liberal, which that's not good for the far left of the party. That's the group she's competing with for. She's a young, non-white female politician with some far left views. She's competing for the same bloc as Sanders and Warren and people like that. She's not competing for the Biden voters or the Buttigieg voters. The problem is she's the least far left of them as far as her past goes because of her prosecutorial record. Her tough on crime stance, like Biden's, it doesn't hurt him because he's the centrist. He's the moderate candidate, supposedly, which is laughable. She's not. She's not a moderate candidate. The other problem is the fact that she comes out and starts rambling about an event that never happened, which is her supposedly smoking weed, listening to Tupac several years before Tupac ever cut an album. Well, obviously she wasn't doing that. She was probably just smoking weed and listening to rap music, which is interesting because then a few years later, as a prosecutor, if she found somebody smoking weed in their dorm, she'd have them thrown in prison and punished to the full extent of the law because she thought it would scare them straight. The scare 'em straight liberals of the 80s and 90s, my goodness, how much they have suffered. Because the Housewives of America sort of movement has totally fallen out of favor. And there's still an element of pro-censorship within, the left. Definitely. The youngest far left individuals are the most censorious. They think that it's a good thing if tech giants beat up on independent creators because Orange Man bad or having opinions bad or something. It's scary to them. They've been coddled as children, I guess. But not in the sense of prosecuting minorities. Certainly not prosecuting people for simple drug possession or truancy or jaywalking or some minor thing like that. It shouldn't even be truancy. Why the hell should that even be a crime? Oh, you didn't go to school. We're going to put you in prison for 6 months. That'll teach you a lesson. That'll really solve the fucking problem. You got to be fucking nuts to have that mentality, especially if you want to put a D after your name and run for the presidency. Kamala Harris has completely lost it. She doesn't understand. And she acts indignant. She's like, well, my prosecutorial record's not a big issue. You're making a big issue out of nothing. Big mistake to respond that way. The proper way to respond is yes. Like many people, my views have changed over time. The theories about law and order and justice and preventing criminal behavior were different then. I apologize. She should just do that. Come out and apologize. And or contrast. Here's what Kamala Harris should do if she's smart. Here's some free advice for someone who will never be president of the United States anyway, so it's okay. Come out and say, well, unlike evil orange Drumpfler and the Republicans and some Democrats too, you can hit out at Biden, I changed my mind because I realized that it was wrong. And I realized that, yes, prosecuting people for simple possession of pot is a bad idea, but there are still too many people who don't. And give us some soaring little speech about it and make it a platform. Take the negative and turn it positive, at least among Democratic voters. She can do that, but I don't think she's able to, so I don't really care about giving that advice. It's funny because you know that these political campaigns, they scour around online, trying to, not necessarily to get advice, but to sort of take a pulse of content creators. Considering the number of people in our audiences, it behooves them to have a few people doing that on their campaign staff. Yes, I am sure every mainline campaign pays a little bit of attention to YouTubers and major Twitter handles and stuff like that. Yes, they have social media teams. Some of them are volunteers, some of them are probably paid staffers. So if some crazy Kamala Harris staffer sees this, number one, you should try to get dirt on the campaign, maybe leak it to Project Veritas. That'd be funny. It's legal to do that too. I mean, they can't stop you. What are they going to do about it? You should do that. But then you should tell Kamala I said hi and that she should do that. Otherwise, I mean, there's no possibility of her even breaking double digits at this point. Warren is going to curb stomp her as the dedicated left-wing female candidate. That'll happen to Kamala Harris unless Harris explains the prosecutorial thing. And she's got to not make up stupid shit like her Tupac lie again, because that'll sink her campaign. That'd be worse than Joe Biden having another Me Too moment at the moment. Like, literally, Joe Biden could schmooze with a little girl again and do the hair sniffy thing that he's so fond of doing. That would hurt him less than Kamala Harris having another Tupac moment. That's just sort of the structural way it is because of the electability issue. And Kamala Harris, is she electable with this baggage over her head? No, not unless it's fully explained, apologized for, and inverted. You have to invert the negative into a positive. Make it a story about how a human interest story about how Kamala learned to be more tactful with regards to the treatment of minorities, in the prison system or something like that. Even though it'll be a lie, it'll be completely inauthentic. As long as you explain it once, it probably won't be brought up by the other Democrats. Why would it be? They don't want to hit out at one another. They're focused on Biden right now. That's about all. Peace out.